All right, Dan, week 0 officially in the books.
Yeah.
Favorites were 2-5 against the spread. The big dogs eaten in week 0, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I watched week 0 on and off. I was away for the Notre Dame game because I am insistent on enjoying the last few drops of summer. I was just eating pizza. It's no big deal, but I watched the entirety when I got back. I watched USC, San Jose State, and I skimmed... No, I watched a good chunk of Vandy, Hawaii, which is actually like kind of a crazy, wild, fun game. So I'm good. I'm excited to talk about week 0. It provided us content, Ty, which is the first time it's happened in quite some time.
Indeed. Look, the first quarters of these games, to me, felt like they flew by. We've got new clock rules now.
Right.
Clock doesn't stop as frequently. And as a result, I'm watching these games and I'm watching my bets and I'm sort of like in a cold sweat because it feels like the game is moving way quicker than I am accustomed to. And in the case of the USC San Jose State game, maybe it was sort of the undoing for my jeweled parlay. I still love the name of that bet. It didn't hit because USC did not cover 8.5 in that first quarter. But where do you want to start here with week 0? We have a lot to discuss, more than, as you said, we might otherwise have.
Yeah, I suppose let's start with USC just because it's a natural transition. And I guess that's the danger in wagering in quarter totals or half totals is that maybe the coin flip means a whole lot more to everybody if you're betting like a first quarter under a first quarter total or something like that because of the speed of the clock. So USC, San Jose State, the Spartans of San Jose in the Coliseum is the first game as a reigning Heisman winner for Caleb Williams, and we have high expectations for USC. I don't know if this game was as close as the final score indicates, which was 56-28 was the final?
56-28.
Which we were pretty close to.
Spread.
We were pretty close. We were both in like the 55-20 type range. What were your takeaways other than the speed of especially the first quarter clock when you watched USC San Jose State?
Well, the big talking point is the headline of the LA Times. The column that Bill Plaschke wrote. USC wins opener, but Lincoln Riley must fix the damn defense. That was, I think, the broader takeaway, and we could talk about that in a little bit. But the offense, we can't start a USC discussion without talking about the offense. Caleb Williams, 4 touchdown passes, looked fantastic. I'm a little worried that he was a little too happy with the happy feet. He did a lot of that. I know
he knows what he can get away with
last year.
Yeah,
and I just felt like he was pushing the limits there with San Jose State. And I don't know if it was an offensive line thing or what it was, but the happy feet were a little too happy for my liking. But he was great. He was Caleb Williams. He was the reigning Heisman champion. Zachariah Branch, the top wide receiver in the 2023 class, had a really nice catch and run for his first touchdown midway through the third quarter, and then returned to kickoff for another touchdown like 5 minutes later. As our friend Spencer Hall pointed out on Twitter, he will probably have 1 billion yards in this offense this season. There is not much to worry about with the USC offense. The question, and I guess the broader talking point, is the USC defense. San Jose State had 396 yards of total offense. Everyone, Bill Plaschke, right to point out that USC's defense needs to be better. It is worth mentioning that 154 of those yards came in garbage time in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So I don't want to jump to the conclusion too soon that USC's defense is still not fixed, that Alex Grinch may not be the answer as defensive coordinator. I'm willing to pump the brakes a little bit on that. But that being said, what I saw in week 0 from USC needs to get better if they're going to play teams like Oregon. They're going to play teams like Utah. They're going to play teams like Notre Dame. That won't suffice when we get deeper into the season. So they still do need to fix it. I agree with the overall sentiment. I'm just not ready to push the panic button quite yet.
Yeah, and at full health, Oregon and Utah's quarterbacks can move as well, if not better, than Siobhan Cordero, who has been around college football for a long time. And, you know, anytime you have an experienced, talented quarterback like Siobhan Cordero, he is going to make plays. So, at the top, Caleb Williams is terrific. I'm not worried about his offensive line, and this falls under the broader umbrella of, yes, pay attention to a team's first game on both sides of the ball, but understand that it's the first live action for everybody in their first game. And so things can be corrected. Players can calm down. Players can go back and watch film of the live action, be like, oh, that's why I didn't contain that like 3rd and 17 run from Siobhan Cordero that extended a drive and killed Ty's Paralele. So yes, under that umbrella, this applies to everybody in their first matchup. And so I'm not going to be overly critical of USC's defense today, even though, yes, they did give up, especially some plays downfield in the passing game. If you look at some of the touchdowns and longer plays that San Jose State was able to connect on, it wasn't 4 yards at a time for the Spartans. And so that, I guess, is somewhat of a concern, that there were lanes, that there were leaks, that there were guys beat on the outside, that there were safeties who were late rotating. Look, the headline to me with USC is Caleb Williams is still awesome. I don't know if you saw that like bad snap situation where he was able to recover the fumble and still bomb it down the field for 45 or whatever.
I don't know how you can plant your back foot.
It's wild.
And still make that throw. I'm thinking, how is he going to have enough juice on that ball to get it down? He did it anyway. It's amazing.
The actual novel thing from this game to me is what you pointed out and what Spencer pointed out, is that Zachariah Branch has a ceiling of being him, right? Has a ceiling of being DeAnthony Thomas, who is nearly a Trojan, Percy Harvin, Tavon Austin, right? That type of like, oh, he's jogging and everybody else is sprinting. That doesn't seem fair for everybody else. Boy, it sure must be fun to root for a guy wearing your color uniform who can do that. That's him, right? In the punt return game, in the kickoff return game, in the receiving game, right? You just dump the ball off to Zachariah Branch and he goes for a 25 easy yard touchdown. That's special. That's different. USC fans, you cannot be excited enough, right, about the future and potential of Zachariah Branch, because
I watched the highlights. Yeah. He reminded me of Reggie Bush.
Yeah. Look, he had that play where he sort of ran down the sideline. I don't know if it was on the kickoff return. I think it was, where he, went to the sideline and then just sort of paused and cut across and remained untouched. And I don't know if it was the same side where Reggie Bush did that against Fresno State, but no, once you see that in a player, you're like, well, you know what his ceiling is, and that is absolute game wrecker. His big concern will be, what happens if Lincoln Riley leaves before USC goes to the Big Ten to take like the Cowboys job or something. But that's neither here nor there. Nice win for USC. Don't give up 3rd and 17 scrambles. And again,
that killed the parlay. That killed the parlay.
I think they have USC at Stanford this coming week, I believe. You can't do that against Stanford, right? You got to get that corrected before the big boys in the Pac-12. So that was the takeaway for me, that USC is still going to have similar issues, but I am still a believer that USC with a combination of execution and coaching can ascend to okay on defense. I really do.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that the story for you was an 85% completion percentage for your guy, Miller Moss, who finally got some snaps.
Yeah, who I've heard, by the way, because he's supposedly a good backup and was a highly touted guy coming out of high school, just loves going to USC. Great. I'm sure it's a nice experience.
All right. Well, shall we get to some of the other action before we do? Yeah. Before we talk about my Fighting Irish.
By the way, quick correction. USC plays Nevada. So if everybody writing in, right, they played Nevada, Stanford early on, I think, on the schedule, if you have it in front of you.
Stanford week 2, Nevada week 1.
Okay, there it is.
For those of you who have been listening to this show for a while, you know that we updated our Patreon tiers out at Verballers.com. You may also know that if you join at Verballers.com, if you get it our Run the Board Pick'em game, which you can join each and every week now, winner of week 1 gets a PS5.
What?
We found the money in the budget to do it. Week 1, the winner gets PlayStation 5. We're not giving a PS5 out every week, but we're going to give out better prizes every week. I assure you of that. So, of course, everybody wants the cool, solid verbal merch. We get that. We can accommodate that.
Yes.
But better prizes, perhaps the best prize of all in week 1, PS5. Get in. You also get access to bonus content. You also get access to ad-free episodes. Every episode that we do ad-free out on Patreon. We're also going to have Jeff Schwartz, our friend Jeff Schwartz, stopping on by to talk through the machinations that make some of these big plays throughout the college football season. He's going to break it down with his coach's film and his handy-dandy little spoon. All sorts of stuff. Just going out to Verballers.com if you want more info on how to further support the show, but also get access to bonus perks that I think will elevate your college football fan experience.
Pause the episode. Go to your phone, go to your laptop, go to your tablet, whatever, Verballers.com. Just digest all the bonus fun college football things that will make your season, win, lose, whatever your team is doing, so much more enjoyable. Community, ad-free. Just pause. Check it out. Maybe consider supporting the show. We're very appreciative. Ty.
Yeah.
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
I got maybe the most X-rated text from you as you were watching this game. No, I wouldn't say X-rated.
I mean, there were no pictures. You make it sound really X-rated. It was
explicit. It was that you were
explicit language.
You were feeling fan arousal watching Notre Dame's offense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 42-3. Notre Dame had center stage, which Notre Dame loves. I mean,
of course,
that's Notre Dame. Very much
marching through the streets of Dublin with the band. Of course.
Notre Dame had center stage in the college football world for a couple hours before some of the other games kicked off. Theirs started at 2:30 Eastern. They were in Dublin, Ireland, Aviva Stadium, scoring off against Navy. They won 42-3. The big takeaway for me is Sam Hartman and Notre Dame may be a perfect match.
Okay.
And it was very interesting to see Sam Hartman in an offense that didn't solely rely on his arm, which I think we've seen over the last couple years in his time at Wake Forest. He's been very good. He broke a ton of passing records. And there's a reason he was the number one transfer quarterback of this transfer portal cycle. Likewise, it was great to see this Notre Dame offense with an actual threat of a legitimate passing game, right?
Yeah.
It was just so clear with the way that they schemed this thing, that they had a lot of faith in him to run the offense. It was very clear he was comfortable doing it. I made the comment to you that he just felt very calm. He seemed calm back there. And that also was new if you've been watching Notre Dame for a while. We've had frantic quarterbacks for the last 10 years. Guys who take the snap and they're sort of running around, hanging on for dear life, trying to find an open guy. In some cases, they can't reach him because they don't have the arm strength. In some cases, it's a one-man route. That was not the case with Sam Hartman. He didn't break a sweat. It's been a while. It's been an eternity. Maybe forever. Maybe I've never seen it in my lifetime as a Notre Dame fan.
Do you know what you sound like right now?
I don't care
if
what
I can jump in right now. You sound like somebody who just met a second wife. Where you're like, I'm with the quarterback now who's doing things I never thought I'd be involved with.
Listen, I was getting texts. I was getting stuff from Mama H commenting on the beauty of Sam Hartman's mane, like Mufasa in college football form.
You just got out of a toxic relationship.
Best hair since Bob Diaco. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that.
The quarterback's blowing my mind. Yeah.
This is all to say that Sam Hartman looked very good.
Yeah.
He looked very, very good as quarterback for Notre Dame. I get that it was just Navy, but I should also mention that there was a whole lot of just purpose out there with this offense. They didn't go out there. They weren't confused. I felt like they knew exactly what they wanted to do with it, which is why I was so encouraged, even against an overmatched opponent, to go out there, to feel like you have purpose, to seem like you're all on the same page. That's a big deal, especially with a new quarterback. A lot of inside zones, a lot of the duo runs that Notre Dame has been doing now for the last 2 seasons. Audric Estime, an absolute house as a running back. Notre Dame's very deep at running back, which I like. We did get to see some wide receivers. My guy, Jaden Greathouse, true freshman out of Texas, had 2 touchdowns in his first game. The offense was very, very encouraging. The defense did an awesome job. It took them like 2 drives to kind of get Navy figured out, but after that, they clamped down in a really big way. So I am over the moon. Over in a week where we talked about very limited slate. I get it.
Yeah.
But in a week where we're talking about favorites being 2-5 against the spread, Notre Dame absolutely blew the doors off Navy. And I could not be any more excited about what's to come.
Are you protecting yourself at all?
Protecting myself?
Well, like you're just all in, right? The fan arousal, like this is, as I mentioned, like, but what I'm saying is like Navy might be really bad. And so you have to put yourself out there, right? You have to dance like nobody's watching. But
this is the joy of college football.
I agree.
This is the joy of college football.
If Notre Dame is as excellent as you hope and are envisioning them to be this year, that's what they should have done against a very bad Navy team.
That's it, right?
That's what they should have done.
Isn't that the thing for week 0? Isn't that the thing for all of these top teams?
Taking care of business is underrated. in college football.
Taking care of business is underrated. The art of the blowout,
yes,
for me, is very underrated. Like, just beat the crap out of a team you're supposed to beat and move on to the next week. They should do it again this week.
Were there any surprises to you as a Notre Dame human that like, oh, I wasn't expecting this person to step up, or, oh, I wasn't expecting the defense to be doing this kind of thing? I know it's Navy, so you can't really appraise a defense in the way that you can against more conventional offenses. But was there anything that you're like, oh, that's an interesting thing that I could see being more interesting as the season progresses for Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things that I think fall into that category. The one thing that really jumped out to me after watching the last couple years of Notre Dame football, not a whole lot of tight end action in this game.
That's true.
Right? They were throwing to receivers, which felt different. It really felt different to throw it to a wide man or a slot man and not have to zero in on a guy like a Michael Mayer. This was not a game dictated by the tight ends. This was a game dictated first and foremost by Audric Estime, I think, to set the pace. And then secondly, in a very big way, by Sam Hartman, who only missed like 4 passes, had 4 touchdowns. I mean, he was legit. So it's just interesting to me to see some of these new receivers and see how they step up. Jaden Greathouse, I mentioned him at the top, but guys like Deion Colsey, even Chris Tyree, who's now playing in the slot a little bit,
right?
To see how they use him. It'd be very interesting. I don't want to drone on too much about Notre Dame, but Notre Dame looked really, really solid in week 0.
Yeah, and 125th Navy last year in terms of explosive passes allowed. So their pass defense had a lot to be desired. So, not grain of salt, but important context that Navy has a ways to go in terms of defending the pass. The other thing that stood out to me about Notre Dame, and we'll move on, is I think it was a Jaden Greathouse touchdown catch. Sam Hartman threw it to a place that he knew Jaden Greathouse would be, streaking up the seam or the sideline. I forget exactly where on the field it was. And that is the mark of a 14th year quarterback, right?
It is the mark. And you know what? That's something our friend Pete Sampson from The Athletic has reported all throughout spring camp, all throughout the build up to this season. That's a key difference between where Notre Dame's been at quarterback and where they will be this year with Hartman. He knows how to throw guys open, and that makes receivers better. He missed a few, I mean, he had Tobias Merriweather open and he didn't quite put enough juice on the ball in the back of the end zone. And that stuff will get sorted out, I think, in due course. But by and large, knowing where people are on the field, that sense of place has really been lacking from Notre Dame. And it was great to see it. So I'm excited. I can't help it.
Does this change your expectation for, Clemson, USC, anything like that? Or because you kind of went into the season expecting Sam Hartman to be a revelation. So I think it's probably around.
It's just different to see it.
Yeah, totally.
It's different. It's different to see it, to feel it the way that I did. I mean, it gave me the vapors. Let's be honest.
Can I tell you something? Speaking of good quarterback play, I liked both A.J. Swan and Braden Shager.
I wanted to. Okay, so let's go to the Vandy game. You mentioned that it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
we had a bit of a slow motion backdoor cover.
Yeah,
because Vandy was up 21 at the start of the fourth quarter. They allowed 14 unanswered, only to win by 7. So a bit of a clunker in that sense, especially if you had Vandy minus 16.5, like some of us. By the way, I went 0 for 4 on all my tie versus the world picks again.
Yeah.
Continuing the trend, the horrible trend from last season, but we will get that straightened away in due time. This game was delayed for an hour and 40 minutes due to lightning.
Yeah.
I think the big story for me, obviously Vandy won. This was a must win for Vandy. I think we're both pretty keen on Vandy over 3.5. Can't make that bet anymore, but this is a must-win for them in that sense. You have them in a bowl game, so doubly a must-win.
I know. That was tough. It was a tough watch for my bowl prediction. Continue.
The big story for me, though, was how much better Hawaii looked.
Yes.
They lost this game by 53 at home last season, and if you watch any of the highlights, even if you just look at the damn box score, it was apparent that Timmy Chang has done some work with this team.
Yeah.
And so they were not a disaster like they were a year ago. This seemed like a team that, again, I use that word again, purpose. It seemed as if they were much more together than they were a year ago. And I think you're right to point out the quarterback thing. They did look pretty good.
So, okay, Braden Shager, it's not Schrager, it's Shager, looked strong. He's that old-fashioned Hawaii gunslinger type quarterback, right? I thought A.J. Swan looked strong. I think Vandy had like 100-yard kickoff return. So the Vandy offense only scored 28 against this Hawaii team, which is another feather in Hawaii's cap. If this game's played 10 times, I think they probably split it 5 out of 5, or 5 and 5, just because of the it was, I think, an end zone fade interception that Braden Shager threw. So Hawaii was fighting. I think they outgained Vandy by like 100 yards. It was worrisome as somebody who picked Vandy to make a bowl game, but I'm sticking with it, Ty. I'm not abandoning the doors. I also enjoyed the construction in one of the end zones. If you saw all the
Did you see some of the highlights? They were showing the temporary scoreboard.
Yes.
Floating in the breeze as it was held up by a crane.
Yes.
Does not seem safe. I know our friend Roger Sherman is doing the grand road trip.
Road Raj.
Road Raj. Go and check him out.
RODGER on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Send him some love. He's going to be traveling the great country, watching all sorts of great college football. He was tweeting and posting pictures of the active construction zone that is the Vanderbilt Stadium right now.
By the way, dream situation to bring a 3-year-old. If you're going to bring a 3-year-old to a football game in Nashville, may I suggest not traveling anywhere else and just showing your toddler, your little kid, a bunch of tractors while you watch football. Even if Vandy's getting blown out. That's a nice little one, too.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other takeaways other than Vandy's defense probably has a ways to go. And I think Hawaii is going to be extraordinarily fun this year because they're just going to wing it around. And Braden Shager, I don't think he has a pop gun arm like your Bryant Moniz. I'm ready for fun Hawaii football. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
That's it.
It has been a minute. Going to get to some other games. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe or follow on your podcasting app of choice. Leave us a 5-star rating.
Yes.
Or a review. Let us know in that review, if you want to, what you thought of week 0.
I like that.
What you thought of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What you think of week 1, as it is coming up very, very big in the window. It's going to be here before you know it. We're going to be doing a live stream on Wednesday at noon out on our YouTube channel, which you can watch and follow along with. We're also going to be going live on Saturday night at midnight. After. Thank you, Dan.
Saturday night tie?
Saturday night tie, baby. After most of the games, let's say.
Yeah.
Most of the games. I think UCLA will still be in the process of, I'm assuming, beating Coastal Carolina, and there's an Oregon State game late on Saturday night. We've got games on Sunday. We've also got games on Monday. So I think normally we'll be able to cover most of, if not all of the games in a given week, but
yes,
it is week 1. It's a little bit different for good reason.
Absolutely.
San Diego State 20, Ohio 13. The big story in this one was the Rourkening, as I called it.
Yeah, Rourkening.
The Rourkening went a little bit differently than expected because Curtis Rourke got knocked out of this one at the end of the first quarter. It's clear that when he's in there, he's got real NFL potential.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball just comes out of his hand effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big kid. He definitely has the build. When he is running that offense, it is clearly at a different level than it ended up being here with C.J. Harris, the backup who came in and went like 18 of 41 or something of that nature.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Three picks for him. Curtis Rourke kind of got bent in half. It was a very, very weird way that he took a hit from a defender. He apparently wanted to go back in the game. It seems like he's fine. They were going to do some precautionary x-rays. It sounds like he was pissed at the coaching staff. They wouldn't put him back in there.
That.
But he is recovering from an ACL injury. We talked about it on the last episode. He came back very, very quickly from that injury. So they were not going to take any chances, especially with a non-conference game such as this. So he got knocked out early. It was C.J. Harris the rest of the way. I'm not crazy about San Diego State's offense. They only scored 20 points, so perhaps that further underscores the point. The highlight of this one for me really was, I want to say in the first quarter, Jalen Maiden being chased by defenders, tries to roll a little bit to his left. He's a southpaw.
Yeah.
And tries to throw it away, ends up throwing it right in the face of a referee.
Saw that.
Did you see that? Did you see that play?
It's a bad day at the office. Yep.
But other than that, it was mostly a defensive slugfest. Even still, without Rourke, Ohio had opportunities to come back and make this a game, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I would say, I forget if I call it a win-loss or a loss-win. Like, it's better to win than lose. This is San Diego State winning a great clunker to open the season, because if you turn another team over 3 times and only give up 1 yourself, and you're facing a backup quarterback who's not terribly effective, and you hang on to win at home, not ideal. Doesn't sort of portend great things for the Aztecs. But again, it's their first game of the season. Lot to correct. We'll see.
Jacksonville State, welcome to FBS. Jacksonville State wins 17-14 over UTEP. UTEP actually outgained Jacksonville State, the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State, by about 100 yards. They had 9 more minutes of possession, but they turned it over 3 times. They were just 3 of 12 on third downs, and that'll get you.
Yep.
Especially in a close game. It's actually sort of similar to what we saw happen in the UMass game. So UMass knocked off New Mexico State 41-30. It was a big game for Tyson Pumachan. Remember him?
Yeah, of course. I think it's Clemson to Georgia Tech to UMass?
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So a 2-time transfer. It's another situation where we have one of these guys finally getting the reins of starting quarterback. You look pretty good. It's apparent they're going to let him run at UMass. UMass was outgained by 100 yards, but again, forced the 3 turnovers. And that is, I think, ultimately what felled New Mexico State. The play of the day in this one, not the Jalen Maiden play from San Diego State, but this was the one where Diego Pavia, the quarterback for New Mexico State, evading a pass rush, rolls a little bit to his right. He gets the very vicious face mask that spins his helmet around 180 degrees while the play is still live. And so he is out there literally like a chicken with his head cut off, sort of doesn't know what to do, and had the wherewithal to just chuck the ball beyond the end zone and was able to get out of that play without getting drilled. But one of those deals where it was actually could have been very, very scary.
Yeah.
He just could not see as the helmet spun around in his face.
Big deal when UMass wins a football game. They were, I think, the worst team in FBS football last year to open the season up with a win. And I always have a soft spot for UMass because I just remember as like a 12-year-old loving UMass basketball. Ty.
Marcus Camby.
What do you know about Carmelo Travioso? Is that his name, Travioso? Edgar Padilla? Did I just pull an Edgar Padilla? So look, and it's Don Brown. He's been around forever. We like that. I'm happy to see a team that's been down for so long open the season up in a positive way.
Our friends over at the Sickos Committee made a graphic that they posted titled the UMass Chowder Bowl.
Okay.
And so they've got a bowl of chowder, and then in the bowl of chowder, they've got a New Mexico State logo. And they've got it tagged with, does UMass have a bowl game cooking this season? They've already got one in the pot. If they're going to do this thing every week where they're adding a logo.
I love this.
I love this idea. I don't know how many logos they're going to have a chance to add because UMass's over-under is like 3, but I like the concept. Kudos to our friends, Sickos Committee.
The number 131 SP Plus team from last season. The worst offense in America last year in terms of points per drive, but they were okay on defense, only 100th in points per drive last year. So get that chowder going. You like chowder, Ty? I enjoy chowder.
Sure, why not? Why not? Get it going in the crock pot.
Yeah.
We'll see. Final game here to discuss, unless you've got any burning UTEP or Jacksonville State
No. We got
thoughts.
Louisiana Tech, FIU.
Yeah. FIU was up 17-3 at the beginning of the second quarter, and they choked it away.
Yep.
That's because, Dan, guess who's back?
Hammering Hank Bachmeier.
Guess who's Bach? Hank Bachmeier.
Yeah.
He had that bulldog in him. Leading the comeback, 33 of 44, 333 yards, passing a long touchdown to Smoke Harris, who might have the best name in college football this year. Smoke Harris had 11 receptions for 155 yards. Might be a little early for dude alerts here, but 22-17 is your final as Louisiana Tech comes from behind, win it nearly at the gun to get on the board, avenge the loss from a year ago when FIU won a bit of a shootout.
Mm-hmm. No, great win to start the season for Louisiana Tech. Sonny Cumbie, Hank Bachmeier, brother of Bear, Lion, Tiger, Orca, Kangaroo, whatever his brothers' names are. Kangaroo Bachmeier. Are you not familiar with his work? Really nice, solid win, comeback win. What's wrong? What's wrong, Ty? What did I say? That's so weird.
You listed half the animal kingdom.
Yeah. FIU did a really nice job pushing around Louisiana Tech. They ran all over them, but it's, you couldn't move the ball at all through the air. It wasn't like some comically low number for Grayson James, the FIU quarterback. I'm not here to pick
my
on
God.
anybody. It was a down day. It was an off day.
He had
but
4 yards passing.
Yeah.
He had 5 completions, 4 yards passing.
Yeah.
That is an average of 0.8 yards per completion.
Yeah, it's a tough way to win a game. So, yeah, I don't know. Good for Louisiana Tech. Wins are better than losses.
Wins are better than losses. That does it for week 0. Again, only 7 games of note. Some of these teams will be in action again this week, and we'll get to that on the week 1 preview. Again, going out, it's youtube.com, the @ Solid Verbal. That's where you can find the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
We will be going live with our picks every Wednesday at noon Eastern.
So that is
watch it live.
11 Central, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific, 6 for our good friends on the islands in Hawaii.
Yeah,
And then go forward if you're in Europe or Asia. I don't have the math to do that at the same time. But yes, 12 Eastern, our picks, our weekly picks show live, youtube.com/@solidverbal. Subscribe, hit the bell, ding.
And then of course Saturday night, as we said at the top, we'll be doing the recap.
Okay, I won't play the whole.
Don't
whole thing
overdo it.
again.
We got to save that. We
I
got to save
understand.
that.
Saturday night
But
tie.
make sure you follow along on social media. We'll be posting all of those links out there as well, whether
Yes.
you're on Twitter or X. We did do a little bit of zeeting
Did we?
this Saturday. I did, yeah. You weren't around.
my
You were doing the
God.
Pizza Fest
In
thing,
public,
but
you were zeeting.
I was zeeting.
Okay.
Yeah. To close out this episode, I did want to give a shout out to the Verballer community.
Yes.
Again, verballers.com is where you can go and check that out. I didn't mention the great community that we have and how we're going to be doing watch-alongs and things of that ilk this coming season. Sally, our good friend out on Discord, has this odd habit of putting together a composite poll every year.
Mm-hmm.
What I've got in front of me is the composite top 30, basically. Took all of the polls from everyone over at the Athletic to Athlon to CBS, the AP Top 25, you name it. All of these polls are kind of, put together into one. It's a composite poll.
Yes.
Here's what we got. I want you to tell me, as I read through this top 25 very quickly,
Okay.
who's too high.
Or we'll go
who's
through a
too
top 10, top 12, top 15, whatever you want, Ty.
Here's 1 through 10. All right.
Okay.
Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Penn State at 5. LSU at 6. Tennessee at 7. Clemson at 8. Texas at 9. USC at 10.
Okay.
Who's too high? Who's too low?
I'd move USC maybe up a little bit. I'd certainly move USC ahead of Texas and Tennessee in this moment. Wouldn't you?
Okay. I think Tennessee at 7 is a little high.
I think Tennessee at 7 is a little bit high. I said that Penn State would likely be my team that has never made the playoff, that I like them to make the playoff. If everybody kind of hits approximately their expected ceiling, Penn State is a very good team or a very good option for me to be that first-time playoff team. So I don't hate them that high, but it does, when you see it, you're like, ooh, wow.
That hits a little different for me. 5 is too high for Penn State. They could get to a top 5 caliber team. It's very possible, but I would be inclined to put them below LSU.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to put them below Texas. I'd be inclined to put them below Clemson, certainly below USC at this point. I think Penn State would be very, very good, but with such a big unknown at quarterback.
Right.
And I'm in on Drew Aller, don't get me wrong. But we got to see something out there. Maybe after week 1, I'll feel differently.
Right.
Okay, if they go out there and destroy West Virginia, if he throws for 280 yards and doesn't commit any bonehead mistakes, maybe I'll feel differently.
Mm-hmm.
But to start, 5 is really high. That's really high, man.
It's striking that 4 of the top 5 in this poll, and in a lot of polls and combinations thereof, have new quarterbacks, right? Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Penn State. And so while it kind of makes sense to look at the top, that it feels like there's also potential for a lot of volatility given new quarterback play. And then, of course, Tennessee, new quarterback. Clemson, new full-time starting quarterback. And then, of course, Texas has a returner, and USC certainly has a returner. And you get outside of the top 10, Ty. Like, I think I'd have Florida State in the top 10, and they're outside. They're number 12.
That was going to be my next question. So as we go outside the top 10, we've got Utah at 11, Florida State at 12, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Washington to round out the top 15. of those teams, I think we agree that Florida State's probably a top 10 team.
Yeah.
They feel too low. Are there any others in that grouping that you'd be inclined to put in your top 10?
Yeah, other than Florida State, I'd dip Utah down. I'm high on Oregon at the moment, and then I read a new piece. I think it was Brian Hamilton at The Athletic wrote a feature about Bo Nix, and he just seems like he's 28, and you're like, I'm even higher on Oregon than I was before, but offense is not going to be the issue for the Ducks. But I'd have them maybe a little bit higher at 13. I think probably in like the 9 or 10 area right now. I'd have Washington a little bit higher in the 12 or 13 area, and I'd dip Texas and I'd dip Utah. Maybe dip Tennessee, though I am pretty high on Tennessee just because I think that Joe Milton and that system is sort of a match made in heaven, and I anticipate, hopefully, the back end of that defense being a little bit more consistent now that they're should be healthier this season. But that's sort of wait and see for me at the moment. But with how they started out last year, I think you give them at least a chunky benefit of the doubt as being top 10, top 12. So
what we saw from Notre Dame was better than the 14th best team in the country. What we saw from them. Again, I realize it was Navy, but the way that they played in that game, the way that the defense played especially, that was better than top 14. They should be top 10 with that type of performance.
Okay, but do you see any of these teams ahead of Notre Dame on this? Oregon, Florida State, Utah, USC, Texas, Clemson, Tennessee, LSU, Penn State, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia. Do you see any of them not doing that against Navy? Like, do you look at any of those teams and saying, I don't know, they might have really struggled to get going across the ocean at Aviva Stadium? Yeah. That's the issue to me. Like,
that's fair.
I think a lot of these teams would kind of blow.
I don't have a great retort to that, Dan. I'm still riding.
No, I understand. Taking care, Notre Dame did it, right? I'm using a hypothetical argument. So Notre Dame certainly has the potential, especially if Navy's okay this year. That'll be a nicer win than we know at the moment. But yeah, I think what Notre Dame showed, and with what Sam Hartman has a track record of showing as a high-level college football quarterback, yeah, Notre Dame absolutely has a top 10 ceiling.
He could throw 5 picks against Clemson. That's not beyond the realm of possibilities.
Sure.
What I like about the offense is that they don't need him to go out there and throw it that much.
Yeah.
I think they've got enough of a complementary ground game that this will be very, very balanced. But alas, he's got that in him. We've seen it. Here are the remaining 10 teams in this composite poll, again, put together out in our Verballers.com community by Sally, who's very prominent on Discord. We appreciate his hard work here.
Yes.
TCU at 16, Kansas State at 17, Ole Miss 18, Oklahoma, way too low at 19.
I'd have them higher. Yeah.
Way too low at 19. Oregon State at 20. Then we close it out with Wisconsin, Iowa, Texas A&M, way too low at 23, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. Mississippi State and Kentucky. The two that jump out to me for being too low, definitely Oklahoma at 19. Oklahoma's going to be really good. I get why they're 19. Oklahoma is going to be really, really good again this season. And I shouldn't say again because I realized last season wasn't
it was a tough...
quite living up to expectations.
Yeah.
So don't hold me to that. But I think Oklahoma will again be very much in the conversation deep into the season. So they're way too low at 19. And Texas A&M at 23 is too low. It's too low. They might not crack the top 10, but as top 15 team late in the season, provided Connor Wegman is the guy, provided that they keep Jimbo away from the offense, they should be higher than 23.
I don't know, man. Aggies are going to Aggie. You know that. I think that's just, as long as Jimbo's there, you kind of know what you're going to get. I know he was outside of the playoff, just a hair outside of the playoff in 2020, but I don't know. I don't think enough has changed. So, yeah, I would move Oklahoma up. I would move TCU down. I think Oregon State's right there. I think Wisconsin I would have a little bit higher in the mid-teens at the moment with how high I think I am. Iowa is interesting. I don't know what to think about Iowa. Mississippi State I'd move down. Kentucky I'd move up. And of the teams just outside, UCLA, Arkansas, North Carolina, Texas Tech, Minnesota, I think of those 5, Texas Tech and UCLA are the ones that I could see being top 20-ish.
I was going to move Carolina up.
North Carolina up?
Carolina. Yeah.
Man.
The closer we get to week 1, and the more I've been digging on North Carolina, I hate their defense.
I know.
I truly hate their defense, but I really love Drake May.
Of course.
And their offense will again be electric. And it will be, if you are a Carolina fan, one of those frustrating seasons where Drake May is trying to overcompensate for the defense. But
no Phil Longo.
He's just no Phil Longo, but Drake May is just so damn good, man.
I know.
He's so damn good. And I got to believe that they are good enough to be a top 20 caliber team on offense alone.
Man, you got Mac Brown nibbling on your earlobe. I don't know. I don't know, Ty. The Texas love, anything remotely associated with Texas. Now North Carolina.
Look,
okay.
I'm in on UCLA and Texas Tech too.
Okay.
My problem is I'm in on just about everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't dislike those picks. I just think that Carolina here is very quiet at 28.
Okay.
And they're favored this week against South Carolina. South Carolina is not without its own issues. But that neutral site game, I think, will tell us a lot about both these teams.
I agree. And so, with that said, we have a week 1 preview coming Wednesday, noon Eastern time, live on YouTube. Of course, it'll be on the podcast feed shortly thereafter. The games in this 3-day weekend are pretty extensive, are they not, Ty, that we're going to be talking about?
They're pretty extensive. I've already started thinking up what name I am going with for week 1. And I kind of feel like because we've had 7 months to prepare for the week ahead, that you and I should probably circle the wagons beforehand and present a united front when we start the podcast. When we start the stream on Wednesday, I feel like we should come to an agreement beforehand about what we are naming the week and then go from there.
I was thinking Super Saturday because it should be super. Is that good? No, it's not good.
You got to do better than that. You sound like ESPN with Super Saturday.
We've got the premiere of Coach Prime, Colorado at TCU. We have not Jim Harbaugh on Peacock for East Carolina, Michigan, Fresno State, Purdue, Ohio State, Indiana, Boise State, Washington. That's saucy, Ty.
That's very saucy. I like that one.
That's pretty good. West Virginia, Penn State. You think the world of Penn State, of course, going into this year and especially this game. You mentioned North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas Tech, Wyoming. I don't know. That could have some secret sauce. Oregon, Portland State. Any thoughts? No, not really. The only big one, really, to me, big one, is going to be LSU, Florida State, though things do kick off kind of in spicy fashion Thursday night with Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Minnesota. It's pretty good.
It is going to be
a excited, Ty.
Loaded weekend of games. It spans 5 days, starts Thursday night, runs all the way through Labor Day.
Yes.
Our plan, again, is the live stream on Wednesday to get you prepped, the live stream on Saturday night to get you caught up. And then, again, there will be a public episode or part of a public episode that's available on Monday to further catch you up, further give you our thoughts on the weekend that was, and get you primed and ready for week 2 at that point. So make sure you are following along on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting follow or subscribe on the podcast as well. Follow along on social media. And if you really want to be a Verballer and help support what Dan and I do, going out to verballers.com for updated Patreon tiers. Be part of that community. Get access to the bonus perks. There will be a bonus episode on Thursday as well. That is not available on the public feed that you can get access to if you join at verballers.com. So we are really like emptying the clip here, man.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting ready for the season. My voice is just about healed up. And I'm ready. I'm ready for you and I to do our thing.
Did you see Fox is doing a 24 straight hour preview of Colorado TCU? No.
Is that true?
No, not at all.
I did see they were promoting it, though. They're really promoting it.
Joel Klatt's going to wear a diaper on set, and he's just going to freak out about Deion Sanders for 24 straight hours. It's good.
Oh, man. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks so much for downloading, for listening, for playing along at home. We'll see you all noon Eastern Time Wednesday. Stay solid.
Peace.